Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with a Bethesda-centric discussion. Now this has been a topic rolling around in the old cranium of mine for a number of weeks, and as time has progressed you'll understand why it has become more of a point of focus for me, to the point where I want to make a video discussing it with all of you. Normally when I make a Bethesda-centric discussion and it involves Fallout 76, a lot of people will thumbs up comments saying like, Matty, give up, stop holding out hope for Fallout 76. And I think it's because a lot of folks misconstrue that I'm sitting here holding my breath, praying to God that Fallout 76 bounces back. It really doesn't impact me if this game succeeds or fails. As an RPG-centric YouTuber, I like to talk about one of the companies that has produced some of my all-time favorite RPGs and how they're doing great, or how, in this case, they may be messing up. Because as you can see in the title, I find Bethesda's silence deafening. Now, for those who don't know what this term means, it's almost as if saying nothing says more than actually saying something, right? They could be talking about Wastelanders or Doom Eternal, but saying nothing at all, despite how close both these big projects are, brings a little bit of worry to me. Now, I don't know if you guys share that same concern, but as someone who follows Fallout 76 relatively closely in the terms of just reading the patch notes, seeing what each update includes, even if I'm not even going to bother playing it, just as for the sake of coverage, I like to know what's going on, because I feel, at least in my case, I am close enough to the project to provide some really fair and honest coverage, where you'll see other YouTubers and media outlets even misconstrue information or completely misrepresent the product. And we see, for example, with the Fallout 76 moldy helmet fiasco, that in full form. Granted, I was a part of it, I made the same mistake, but you didn't see as many retractions or corrections after the fact. So that's why I like to take advantage of these moments to have genuine Bethesda-focused conversations, because often I think that the overall talk can get muddied with a negative bias, where I feel I take a pretty blank or neutral approach and cover both sides. So when it comes to Fallout 76 Wastelanders, what's been going on with this, right? This is where Fallout 76 can really bounce back. I think everyone fully understands that. While the 76 Battle Royale was shockingly good, even when I went back to it recently, it was actually pretty fun still, it doesn't change the fact that the base game of Fallout 76 still feels very hollow. See, one of the big issues with 76 was less its bugs and frame rates that are still present, by the way. Even when I was getting gameplay today, I encountered a bunch, but it's more so the fact that as you're going around the world, the art direction, the world design is great. I want to explore, I want to be in this world, but the issue was always there was nothing there. And especially when in a Fallout game, one of the key interactions you can have to make that world interesting is meeting other people in this desolate, dreary world, was not there in 76, and now it's being added in. Yes, Wastelanders is hotly anticipated in the terms of fans, but when it comes to people on the outside, I imagine it definitely has their attention, and rightfully so, because it's what we've wanted the whole time. Because even more peculiar is that Bethesda said in a recent update for Fallout 76 on Bethesda.net that they'll be talking about Wastelanders and other content patches and features as they get closer to launching, but they wanted to take a moment to give us more in-depth updates on stuff coming to 2020, which is what I found peculiar. Now, these are great updates, ones I've personally suggested as well, such as a public test server so that Bethesda doesn't have to wreck the base game with every single update and can instead iron things out. Perk loadouts are going to be great. Also, a multi-factor authentication, so you have a little more account security, a legendary player status, social menu fixes, and additional public event improvements. Now, all of these are actually coming in 2020, and this is what I mean by reporters sort of misrepresenting information, because here's a title from Destructoid saying that all of these updates are coming in Wastelanders. And I get it, you can't be bothered to pay attention to 76, but have someone at least write about it who knows something about the game or can bother to read the information on paper, because every single one of those updates was distinctly saying Q1 2020, early 2020. But the main point of this discussion is Bethesda's not saying anything about Wastelanders, despite it presumably coming out, as far as we know, in November. There's been no talk of it, no discussion of it. There hasn't been big news sites covering it. In fact, if you search Fallout 76 Wastelanders in the news section, any of the latest news has to do with that recent patch notes that I just talked about. Outside of that, though, nothing in the terms of actual concrete information on Wastelanders. No story details, no information on what we're actually going to be doing in this update, how many NPCs will be there, what kind of quests we'll have, how much choice and consequence will be there. Things that would genuinely excite Fallout fans. The thing is that Bethesda has such a prime opportunity here. And while we do know it's still in development, it doesn't change that they probably have a concrete idea of what this update should be, right? Where they can say this stuff in interviews and in discussions, where I'm very surprised they're not trying to take advantage of getting people's attention on Fallout 76. This is what folks want. They want people in the wasteland, and they're going to finally get it. We're going to be able to quest, and Bethesda's not really marketing it at all. And that's why I say the silence is deafening, because it's not just for 76 where we can maybe disregard that as, hey, this is a live service project, maybe it doesn't deserve all the marketing attention, and Bethesda may very well be aware that the game isn't what they had hoped it would be, and so now they're just trying to break even with the title and move on. Whereas with Doom Eternal, this is Bethesda's big fall game, and it's also releasing in the tail end of fall, which is very important to note, because by that point, there's a little bit of consumer fatigue, especially nowadays, where every single week in the fall, you have brand new games coming out. So once again, you search Doom Eternal for news, and there's rumors about new skins, that story points have leaked, stages have leaked, and stuff that you probably don't want to read. I personally didn't read them. But for the most part, when it comes to concrete promotion, information, excitement to ramp up Doom Eternal, there's really nothing. Obviously, we'll see what it's like when the full product comes out, but I get a little concerned about this type of stuff when a company is silent about it. You can usually see a sense of confidence when marketing is consistent, when the company is consistently talking about it. And I think that obviously Bethesda will ramp things up for both these things when we get very close, but especially in the case of your big AAA fall game for a series that it was revitalized back in 2016, you definitely want that to gain a lot of attention, especially when you're fighting through tons of competition. You're coming after Call of Duty. There's Borderlands, which is the fastest selling 2K game. There's sports games that have come out. A lot of people's money has been spent. So at this point in the year, with 76 and Wastelanders, it's free. If you own 76, you'll be just fine. But in the case of Doom Eternal, people have to spend money on this. So you need to make sure Doom is in the minds of folks, and that you're trying to sell this to people to make sure they say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to spend $60 on game X. I'm going to save it for Doom Eternal. And you don't see that big marketing push coming from Bethesda with this game. In fact, all you've seen so far, really as of recently, is clarifications about Doom not having a classic team deathmatch, or developmental choices sort of being cleared up, but no talk of the actual game itself. And that was sort of the magic of the first Doom, right? It was right as Bethesda put into effect a really bad review system where they were not going to give out early review codes, and a lot of press and YouTubers, myself included, were like, that's not good. We don't have confidence in your product if that's what you're going to be doing. And then Doom came out and really blew everybody away. Bethesda tried to play it off like, see, we were right the whole time. The games aren't going to suck. But obviously, if that plan were still in effect and we had games coming out today like 76, Wolfenstein Youngblood, games that were a little subpar, we'll just say, that review system would really support the initial argument everyone had when it first came out. So in the case of Doom Eternal, it doesn't share that same magic as Doom 2016 initially, because we know what to expect. There's no big surprise there. So you should be marketing the game, because there isn't going to be that, wow, it's a 9, wow, it's got a crazy good campaign. It's not all about the multiplayer. Those expectations are in place now, and that helped throttle Doom forward when a lot of people initially didn't care about it. But now with expectations already existing for Doom Eternal, you have to be out there marketing why folks should care about it. It seems like the approach got a little muddied because Bethesda looked at one situation and thought it would apply to another, but I think that totally differentiates. I guess what I'm really trying to get around to is that the less that these companies talk, the more nervous I've always become, because I feel, as someone who's working on a project themselves, I can't help but want to talk about it constantly in videos and updates and tweets. And sometimes I do have to keep it to myself, because it's like, okay, things are still getting set in stone. So I understand at least the creative process, and I'm sure there's a little more legality attached to certain comments that can be put out there by developmental teams, of course. But it feels like there's this lack of desire to talk about it. It's really, really weird to me. We'll see in due time, but overall, I just wanted to share my thoughts on what's been going on with Bethesda, which is not much lately, and especially for a fall season where it's just games coming out. When it comes to news, I was looking at my channel, I was like, outside of the Legacy Collection, I don't think there's been a really big news update to talk about. Hopefully Wastelanders gives us a lot to talk about, and hopefully The Outer Worlds is something I can get my hands on for a review copy, and we can sit here and go wild with that, because otherwise, it's already dry season for me, but we'll see how things unravel. So I'd love to hear from all of you. I'm passing it off to you. Fire away in the comments down below. Are you a little concerned about Bethesda's silence, or are you just chilling there going, you know what, if I like the game, that's all that matters? Let me know. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that, as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.